I'm pleased to announce that version 5.1 is officially available today. So we're going to take a quick look at all the new additions. So first you'll see the icon is different, quite a bit of improvement there. When you open up the program, you will no longer see a prompt, a security warning. So now you can open up the program a lot faster. Whenever you put your mouse over the open race menu, it'll show you how many total races are in your database. And then if you expand this out, you will see that the races that have been started are in bold, and the races that have not been started are not in bold. So that'll help you quickly find races that have results or not. This comes in handy if you've got, like I've got, where we've got multiple crews, and my head timer may set up the database and email me the file, and I've got some of his races in here that my database I don't have started. So anyway, also one thing you'll see is if you put your mouse over a race, it will also highlight and tell you the race date and the race director's name. This comes in handy if you pull in races from an online registration system or something where maybe the race name simply says 10K or 5K. Of course, you can modify those names in here, but this should make it easier to find the race you want. The next thing we'll look at is the create race screen. So let's pull up, let me pull up a cross-country race from last year. So if I go with this, of course, the software groups everything by year for you automatically. But let's pull up this cross-country race here. And you'll see that whenever you go to create teams, it will now give you the option to exclude a team from the team results. I've also moved the course mapping feature in here. So you can add your maps, and of course by default it pulls up my favorite mapping tool. It's just free and there's no login required, but you can plug in any URL you want and then map your courses there. That's a nice feature when it comes when you're sitting down with a race director and you're just in the early phases trying to plan out a race. I always try to say this, I always recommend before every race, check out the tips area. This is kind of my checklist. I do this before every race. Basically, if I've gone down through this list and I've asked all the right questions and I've satisfied everything here, I know that I'm ready to time the race. So a lot of people don't know that's there, but I put this in there for my benefit and also, of course, for my timer's benefits. So, so that's there. The next screen is the where you'll see some changes is the program RFID tag screen. So when you pull this up, you'll see that the reader now, if you have a Thinkific reader, you can now set the power output of that reader. So right now I've got mine set to 100%. So if I get tags anywhere close, you see that it starts picking up all the tags in the room. But I can drop that down to as low as 6%, and that is in the options screen. Let me pull that up so you can see it. Let's see. So if you go to settings, so I renamed that from options to settings. But if you go to the RFID reader settings, then whenever it detects that you do have a Thinkific reader attached, you now have the option to drop the power down as low as 6%. So you've got to basically put the tag very close to the antenna before it will read at that power output. So that's a new thing with 5.1. On the import screen, so this should save you quite a bit of time. So let me pull up a random race here, and let's imagine I'm going to import participants. So I've got a delimited file here, and I'm going to say yes, it's a comma separated file, and yes, the first row is a column header. If you ever get that wrong, simply reselect the file and hit the other option. But see here, whenever I pull the file in, now this has got, I think, hundreds of people in it. It automatically sizes the columns based on, or at least it tries to do a good job of sizing the columns to match the template above. And so this should make it easier to kind of eyeball and spot check to make sure everything's in the right spot before you actually import the data. So as you drag and move columns around, let's say I want to swap the first name and last name, then you see it'll automatically resize the columns again. So again, should make it easier to eyeball the columns and make sure that you got everything in the right spot, because the idea is you want to match the template above. Now, if you don't have data, let's say I didn't have a bib number, then of course you can add a placeholder, and then this software will ask you what do you want to start the bid number with, or put good default information in there. So anyway, so that's a nice addition for 5.1. The next thing is one thing you'll see when you're printing results or pulling up the clock screen is everything will run a lot faster. So that if you're doing the quick print features from the clock screen, the results should spit out of your printer a lot faster with 5.1 than previous versions. Another thing is, let me go back to the cross-country race, and if you print off team results, a new edition with 5.1, because I've heard of races where they want to do like some kind of weird dual meet scoring system where maybe you've got 10 races, but it's team A versus team B, and then you want another set of results where it's team A versus team C, team A versus team D, and so on. And so instead of having to create all kinds of separate races or divisions or whatever else, you can now, whenever you go to print the team results, the software will ask you, well, which teams do you want on this team results sheet? So I can say, well, I want only Bald Knob and Batesville. And I can print those off, and then I can turn right around and reprint it and say, well, now I want just these teams. So here you can, select or unselect which teams you want to be calculated in the team scores. And so let me go and just do a 3 teams here. Now, by the way, that pop-up will only show you teams that have enough finishers to qualify for the team scoring. So it excludes all the teams that didn't have enough finishers. So yeah, you see here you can build your team results instantly as you actually print them. So, and I've done some work on the look of the team results. They look pretty nice. That kind of does an italic look for the ones that are displacers. Now, I did want to point this out. I'm using a super high resolution, and this is one reason why I'm moving to a new reporting tool within the next few weeks. Is that if you have a really high resolution on your screen, which a lot of brand new laptops do, then the reporting services has a glitch where it docks it up here. I can drop my resolution and everything looks fine, but that's another reason why I'm moving to a reporting tool that not only doesn't have that bug, but also allows you to modify your own reports and create your own reports. So. But anyway, so that's a new thing with 5.1 is the ability to customize how the team results, which teams are on there. Um, if you're doing a cross country race, another nice thing is with a lot of cross country races, I hear this from quite a few customers. They do meets where the coaches may not know until the very last second which athletes are going to be in which race. For example, you get a JV boys and then a varsity boys, and if you find that some of my varsity boys couldn't make it today, then you may have to jump up some of the JV boys to the varsity team. And so you as the timer, you may not know who's going to be in which race until the very last minute. And so in the past, what timers have done is just put all athletes in all races. That way, it doesn't matter who shows up. You just simply, whoever crosses the finish line, they're in that race. And all other tags, when there's no finishing record, are just ignored, or all other athletes. The problem with that, of course, is if you've got an athlete that is maybe standing near the finish line with their tags on, they're not in the race, but the system doesn't know it, and so it triggers them as a finisher. But I've now made it to where you can throw everybody into just the very first race, maybe the first JV boys race, and after the race is over, you can use this option that says push undetected, and it says, hey, are you 100% sure you're going to push, move these 52 athletes that were not detected, which means they weren't, if you did a chip start, they weren't detected at the start, they weren't detected at any split zones, and they weren't detected at the finish line. And if I say yes, it should ask me which race you want to push them to. So there's 53 people in this Batesville Cross Country Invitational Junior Girls that if I wanted to, I can push them to the Senior Girls race. But I'm going to cancel that. But so now that will allow you to throw everybody into one race and then simply push all the people that weren't detected to the other race. So it should be a lot easier than having to import everybody into all races and then worry about people getting picked up when they shouldn't. Let's see. I've added the ability to push and pull the database from a jump drive a lot easier. So in the past, I always recommended putting your database file on your desktop or somewhere easy to find. But now I've made it to where you no longer have to do that. You can leave it in the default location. So the idea is that you typically have one computer that's doing your registration. Now you can have many, but in most races you're going to have just one computer that's doing your race day modifications and additions. And then after that race day registration period is over, you typically have to copy that database file, the single database file that contains everything for the race, to your other computers and replace their database with the new one. And that kind of gets all computers in sync with the newest stuff. The problem is if you're not careful and you plug a jump drive in, there's a potential, and I've never had someone do this, but there's a potential to drag the wrong way and drag an old database onto the computer that you did your registration and replace it by accident, which means you lose all your race day registrations. And so I've made that to where it should be basically foolproof now. You can just come over here to the, let's say this is the computer we're doing registrations on, and I've just put in my last person, and I can come over here and say, well, I'm going to copy this database. And I put quite a bit of helper tools, and that's one thing I did through the whole program is almost everything you put your mouse over. I put some tooltips to explain kind of what this means and what it does. And so in fact, I could put my mouse over the push undetected, and that tells you how many people were not picked up. But here I can say, copy this database. And again, the little tooltip explains what I'm about to say, but you're going to copy the database on this computer to a jump drive or to some kind of memory stick. The assumption is you're going to put it over on another computer. So here I simply select my jump drive. You can select a folder if you want to, and hit OK, and it pushes a copy of the database to that file. You can now unplug your jump drive, and let's imagine we're now on the other computer that you need to update. You can either do open race and race day actions and do replace database. And what that'll do is that'll ask you to pick a database file to replace, the one on this computer with the one on your jump drive, or if you happen to have the race already open. So let's just pull up any random race here. I can go to Race Day Tools and then replace this database. And you can really click here or here, the same with this or that. I simply put a little helper thing out here just to explain a little bit more, because on race day, you're scrambling, so you don't really think super clear a lot of times. So I want to make sure that okay, replace this database from a memory stick to this PC. So that's new in 3.5.1. I've also added a dedicated announcer screen. So let's pull up a race that's got some participants. I think this one does. So if I pull up the announcer station, I've made it to where, let's see, I've got some tags it's trying to process here. Let me get rid of those. I've made it to where you can now pull up, let me see if I've got any tags assigned to anybody. You can now add in any kind of announcer note. So for example, this guy just happened to randomly pick someone here that's got a birthday that was 2 days ago. But I can also put in a note. Now, by the way, it'll automatically do the birthday information. I've got a handful of tags here. I'm scanning them to see who's been. No, that one's not either. So if someone has had a birthday in the last 7 days, or if they have a birthday in the next 7 days, then it'll say, birthday in 3 days or birthday 2 days ago. So I've only got one tag here that's assigned to somebody. But I can also put in a custom note. Let me see if I can find that tag again. Let's see. I can also put in a custom note where it says 100th marathon or whatever, and it'll show up under the birthdays with a little asterisk. But here, now I didn't put in city, state stuff, but if I'd put in the address of the person, it'll also say their hometown and stuff like that. But the announcer screen should be, provide everything that someone with a microphone may need to say, hey, here comes Trey from whatever, running his 100th marathon, or whatever you want to say. So that's a new addition with 5.1. All right, so let me see what's else is new. I've added the live results capability. Now, I do not have this race on the Aero Live Results site. Basically, you can go to the aeroliveresults.com, and that will be in the email announcement that you get with this video. And you can come over here and go to it's actually external accounts. And here, I can click on this link and it takes me to the website. You can create, put in your credentials or register. And from there, you put in those same credentials here. And anytime, once you have credentials in there, anytime you pull up any race, and I don't think I have this one online, there'll be a sync button if you've got credentials in the settings screen there, or if this race is already on Run Sign Up or Race Roster, or soon coming race entry. But you can hit the sync button. Anytime you hit sync, it'll push up that race to Aero Live Results. And then as you're timing the race, it's almost instant. The moment a tag comes in, boom, it's on the website. So it's a pretty cool thing that people at home. And by the way, once you hit sync, you can pull up the edit race page and then get that URL, and then of course copy it, put it in an email. Maybe a month out, you may want to tell everyone, hey, here's where you can go to watch live results or whatever. And then we're also going to have an API to this. So if you've got a website, you want to have them flowing straight to your website, that can be an option. That'll be coming soon. So that's another nice addition with 5.1 is the ability to offer live results. Now, something I've improved, now this is on the clock screen, I've also made it to where if you use Run Signups Live Leaderboard, with 5.1, it will no longer replace the result set ID. It will use the existing one. You will have the option, let me see if I can find an old race that's on Run Signup. You will have the option to clear or delete the result sets to make it work like it used to before. But that's in the case where you've got some crazy situation where so that one's not on Run Sign Up. Let me see if there's another one. So you've got some crazy situation where maybe halfway through the race you need to clear out what's online for some reason. The odds are you'll probably never use that. So unfortunately, none of those are. But anyway, so we'll keep going through this. The results kiosk screen. So if I go to Race Day Tools, Results Kiosk, You'll see a few new options in here. So, for example, I've made it to where the updating of the kiosk is a lot faster than it used to be. And when I did that, I decided, well, now I can make it to where users can customize how often the kiosk will check for updates. That's actually the name size right over here is the update frequency check. So a default is every 10 seconds it reaches out to see, hey, is there a new database file available for me to update my results with? And I can drop that down to every 5 seconds or 1 second if I want to. But so this will check frequently and it should update the results uh, pretty fast. So another thing you'll see that's different is I can come over here, let's say 318, and if a participant types in their number, in the past it would show the results in kind of like a list view screen here that was kind of hard to read. So now you can type in a number and or scan a tag, and it will show this information. So this has got their division place or overall place or time, pace, and everything that a person may need. So they may not even print the result now, the actual label. They can just come here and look at that. So that's new in 5.1. All right, so let's dig into the clock screen. And so if you pull up a race, you'll see that the software no longer groups races in this screen here. Let me actually pull up a race that's got 2 races going on that day. Oops, close. So we'll just do this Soul for Souls 5K. I don't think I've got any results for it. A couple dummy data thing in there. So if I go to time race, it'll ask me which races I want. I'm going to pull both in, and you'll see that I've got a couple 10Ks and a 5K in there. And so this makes it a lot easier whenever you are trying to follow along with what you see on the screen versus what you see actually in person crossing the finish line. In the past, it grouped the races like what you see over here in the athlete list. And so if you had, let's say, hundreds of people in the 10K and hundreds in the 5K, as people are finishing, you may have started the 10K, 30 minutes earlier. And so you may see 5K and 10K participants crossing very close to each other. And the screen is on the left side here is jumping all around. So if someone was missed or if you had a question about, hey, what was that bib number? It's very difficult to follow along. And so I had a little box up here that listed all the numbers in order. Well, now I'm able to get rid of that, which means that processing is even faster on the clock screen. So this is something people have been requesting for years, and I was finally glad to provide that. Another thing on the clock screen, this is very similar to what you saw in the results kiosk, is now I can come over here and type in, and it'd be better if I show you a real race here. So let's pull up, again, I'll use this NEA Baptist Hope Run. And so if I go to time race, and if let's say, because it's inevitable, you know how it is, someone walks up, hey, I've got to leave early, or can you tell me how I did my division? And for some reason, they don't want to go use the results kiosk, or they don't want to watch on the screen. So you can just now type in, if you know their bib number, you can type it in, hit search, and it shows you everything that people would want to ask about. If you don't know their, or if they don't know their bib number, and they say, well, my name is Jose, you just type in Jose, and then you can type in any part of the first name or last name, and if it finds duplicates, let's say Jo, then it'll show you a list of names, and then you can ask, well, what's your name? Oh, I'm John. You simply double click, and then there's his information. So, uh, the idea is you don't want to, as a timer, you know how it is. You don't want to basically advertise this because you'll have everybody in the race coming up to you to get the results. But it's unavoidable that people come up and say, hey, can you tell me how I did or whatever. And this would make it a lot faster than having to scroll through the athlete list over here. And this also, of course, provides a lot more information. And so I wanted to add that just to be able to kind of get people off my back if someone keeps pestering me about their results. So, all right. So the next thing, 5.1, is you can now, and I hate to swap races again, but this next feature only occurs if you've got more than one race going on. So we'll just swap back over to the Soul for Souls 10K. And if I go to time race, and you see now that I can easily swap someone's race from right here on the clock screen. I can either do it here or I can do it here. And here is probably the easier way to do it because often they'll walk up and say, oh, I only ran half the course. You can ask them their name or bib number. You can click on the columns to sort however you want. And let's say it's Greg here. Then I can double click on his name. And then you'll see that I can swap his race here too. Now, again, this is only visible if you've got more than one race pulled into the clock screen. I mentioned before about pushing results to, in fact, this race is on run sign up. So if when I'm timing the race, I can press F9 on my keyboard, or um, come over here and click this link, and it pushes all the results up. And I can do that anytime I want during the race. But if for some reason I needed to clear the results, I didn't want to get rid of the result set, I simply wanted to clear them, I can click on clear. If I want to completely delete the result set and create a new result set for some reason, I can do that here. And so that's a new addition with 5.1. Something else too with the clock screen. This is a pretty big deal if you're timing like triathlons or events where you've got split stations out on the course. Let's maybe a marathon where you've got a quarter, a half, and three-quarter split point. In the past, if let's say that you wanted to track multiple splits out on the course, but the people that register that day are not in that database. It's out on the course, and so in the past it would basically ignore those people, or actually just track one split only, not multiple. But with 5.1, it'll actually track whatever is the maximum number of splits for the races you have set up in the system. So let's say you've got two races, open on the clock screen, and you've got this station set out on the course, and bib number 1000 comes across, and let's say that race number 1 allows 2 splits and race number 2 allows 5 splits. Well, then it will track up to 5 splits for bib number 1000. It doesn't know which race 1000 belongs in, but it will track up to 5 splits. And of course, when you add in the athlete information or import those splits back to your main computer, it will only track if it sees, okay, well, bib number 1000 belongs to race 1, only allows 2 splits. Of course, it only pulls in the first 2 splits. And it's also smart enough to where when you import splits, it will know to ignore any splits that occurred before the race started or after the bib number 1000 finished the race. And so there's no longer a big concern about picking someone up as they're warming up or cooling down after the race. And so that's a nice addition with 5.1. All right, another thing is, and I have to swap to another race that I know where we did chip starts. We'll just do the Sillamore race. So if you capture chip starts and you open up the clock screen, you'll see that a new thing is that it will show you. Now, it's always done the total participants and total finishers and then total DQs and then total on the course. So the assumption is that, hey, there's some people that are not marked, did not start. So these are people that maybe started the race and did not finish, which is not surprising with this race. It's a 50K like brutal run. Half the people come back bloody. It's a mess. But of course, it sells out in 15 minutes when registration opens. But so with this race, we did a chip start, and you can see here where we had 374 that were picked up at the chip start out of 376. Now, with the 50K, what happens a lot is we have people that are, it could be 10, 15 minutes after the race start that kind of finally get back on the course or get, run through the starting line. So these are people that more than likely weren't missed at the start. They simply started real late. And that's not uncommon with this race. Again, 50K race, no one's in a big hurry. And so this is a new thing with 5.1 though, is you can see how many were picked up at the start. All right, well, so that is a quick overview of 5.1. I'm sure there's more. I think the biggest thing you'll like though is the speed and reliability of 9.1. That's something I always want to push out a reliable update because obviously it's more tech support on me, and if there's problems, and of course me and my timing crews depend on it. So I don't want to take something out that's going to embarrass me or my crews and cause headache for us. So when I push an update out, I try to make sure it's as solid as it can be. Thankfully, we've had a handful of users now for the last few weeks. I offered a cash prize to see who can find the most bugs, and we've trickled that down to where there's basically nothing else coming in. And so I'm very happy to announce this, and hopefully 5.1 is something we can sit on for at least a year, with, of course, some small patches here and there. Like I said, maybe replace the reporting tool. But this is something I think people are going to really enjoy using. So I appreciate your time watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the program and find that it's a really good investment for your business. And just feel like I got the best customers out there. So again, I just appreciate all y'all.